Today I become a real YouTuber. That's right, it's an unboxing, kind of. I came up with this video idea back in December, and then, the mail happened. It's literally taken almost 3 months for me to get this package. So now I've kind of forgotten what my point was. I exaggerate, of course. I pretty much remember why I wanted to do this. There's a buttload of different kinds of thread out there that you could embroider with. And, why hello. DMC themselves, which is like the biggest embroidery brand in America really, they sell so many different kinds of floss, and yet I find myself just constantly using the 6-strand cotton embroidery floss over and over again, and pearl cotton. I am really falling in love with pearl cotton floss lately. So I really wanted to branch out, to experiment, and to see, is there a reason why we all love that traditional cotton embroidery floss the best, or should we maybe be trying some other stuff? And there are definitely loads of embroidery artists that you can follow on Instagram who are using all different kinds of threads and flosses and materials, so that is always a huge inspiration. But I really wanted to do a direct comparison, and what better way to directly compare every type of floss than to just order every type of floss. I got at least one skein of every kind and size of embroidery floss that they sell, not every color because that would be ridiculous. And again, it's been a while, so I don't 100% remember, but I'm pretty sure I did not go off into the yarn category. I left that for another day. Yarn and floss, two different things. Plus, for how small of an amount of products this is, it was getting quite expensive. Yeah, so the long-awaited day is here. We're gonna unbox some thread, and then we are going to compare and contrast like a good old middle school science experiment. And I'm gonna see what I like and what I don't like and why I like it and why I don't like it, and I'm gonna share all of that with you. Hopefully this is helpful to someone in some way. If not, then it will at least have been helpful to me. Let's do it. Ta-da! Let's see what we got. So to start with the big stuff, I got some crochet thread. I got the size 3 and the size 5 Petra that DMC sells. The size 3 is bigger than the size 5. I guess that makes sense. I just always think if numbers go up, then other things should be bigger or something like that. What is this? Sibelia. So this is also 100% cotton crochet thread. So this one doesn't really say a weight unless it's this number 10 right here, which might make sense because it's considerably finer thread than the size 5 and the size 3. Oh, here's more Sibelia. Also number 10 in ecru. I'm pretty sure some of this stuff I bought like multiples of, specifically because I was like, oh, I could actually use that for a project possibly. And now I can't really remember what those projects were. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. All right, then I have Baroque 100% crochet cotton. So we're still on crochet thread here, size 10. Okay, Sibelia and Baroque are both size 10. It does have a bit of a different look though, like the twisting is a little smoother and less textured, so I guess that's why it's a different style of crochet cotton. Yeah. Now all of this right here should be the embroidery thread. Go away, box. There's something not soft in there. Okay, so first up, we have some tapestry wool. Pure virgin wool. Ooh, what does that mean? Was the sheep that it came from a virgin? I don't know. Then we have some pour tapisserie. So I'm pretty sure this one is the matte cotton floss. It has a significantly different look than normal cotton floss. I momentarily thought it was also wool. And this doesn't look like something that I would want to separate. It reminds me more of a yarn. What are you? Oh God, you're huge. What on earth? Oh, this is the floss. What does that mean? Buckled or soft? It is pretty soft. I don't know why it comes in such giant skeins. It's a very interesting thread. It's a little heavier than a single strand of just your regular cotton embroidery floss. And it's very smooth and a little bit shiny. Kind of like it. I don't really know in what situation I would buy more of this and use it for a project, because it's more likely that I would just use a single strand of cotton embroidery floss. Let's make this more organized. Okay, so this is, oh my God, it's written so small. Oh, it's the satin embroidery floss. I have never used satin embroidery floss, but it's quite beautiful. I mean, if you were doing like a Christmassy piece with this color, talk about some shine. Judging from the end here, it kind of looks like the pieces don't want to stay together very much, so it might be an easier one to separate. They're so slippery that like, I don't know how they would twist around each other. There's no friction or anything there. I'm excited to try this one though. That's cool. And in the similar world of shimmer, this one's got glitter in it. So this is the Étoilé. I gotta look up some more French. In case you didn't know, DMC is a French company. I don't know how it went from being a French company to being so big in America, but that's how it is. A star or a pattern in the shape of a star. Am I saying it right? Étoile. I was not. Again, it looks like it's 6 strands, very delicate looking strands with kind of like a crimped or wrinkly or just sort of a looser weave to them. This seems interesting. This seems like something that would get knotted very easily. I guess it could be worth it if you really like that shimmer. So, oh, I am not thrilled about this one. So this is the metallic stuff. Not just metallic, it's pearl metallic, size 5. Oh my God, look at the end of that. Here's one that I found interesting. Color Infusions Memory Thread. What the crap is memory thread? I'm assuming it has wire in it? Yeah, okay, so it's bendable. So I guess this would be for stump work, for 3D embroidery. I typically just use actual crafting wire to do like the outline on a lace piece or anything that you want to stand up on its own. But I guess you could use this instead. Again, it's one of those things that I'm like, that's really cool, but it seems easier to just have crafting wire on hand. Let's pull these out because I know what these are. This is the diamant. I assume the T would not be pronounced, so it would be diamant. Diamant. Yeah, that seems more right. I've seen a lot about this. Obviously, it's very pretty. Again, shimmery, shiny. It's a metallic thread. It appears to be much thinner, more like the weight of a sewing thread. I've never gotten this because, you know, my few times using metallic thread did not go super well and I didn't love it, but this feels a lot better than metallic thread. It's a lot smoother, it seems better twisted together. So if you're gonna go metallic, maybe this will be the answer. What else have we got? This, oh my God. If a piece of thread could embody a rave, that's it. This has the same kind of feeling as the metallic thread, so already not thrilled about that. The thing that I notice with this kinds of thread is that it just doesn't twist around each other very well, so you have all of these strands here, but you can already tell that they're not really connected at all. They're just laying in the same area. When you try to sew with multiple strands, it's just so easy for them to shift and slide and not stay together, which means you'll end up with some like loops and knots and weird stuff, which is why these aren't necessarily the most fun. But I mean, if you want that kind of shimmery, shiny, 5 million colors in one piece of thread look, sometimes you gotta make the sacrifice. This is, oh yes, the Colores. I'm pretty sure this is just a bunch of variegated floss. It looks pretty much the same as your typical 6-strand cotton stuff. However, it is variegated and they have a lot of cool color combinations. What are you? Color variations. This feels like it was something different because it has a different label and a different like kind of packaging, but it kind of just looks like exactly the same thing. It's just variegated 6-strand floss. And then I got some pearl cotton. So I got the pearl cotton size 5 variegated floss because I don't have any variegated pearl cotton. These other pearl cottons are size 3, Ooh, which is significantly chunkier. And out of my own stashes, I wasn't gonna buy more because I already have tons of both of these. I have your typical size 5 pearl cotton. I don't know how typical it is, but it's what I typically use. And then of course, 6-strand cotton embroidery floss. Ta-da! And here we are, 17, 18, 19 different kinds of embroidery, floss, and crochet thread. And we are gonna try them all out right here, right now. I got myself a hoop. I'm using a cotton gabardine, which is a fairly tight weave, so I do have some looser weave fabric on the side here if any of these don't quite agree with being pulled through this fabric. I'm looking at you, tapestry wool. The whole point of this is just to compare all of them, not very specifically though, so I think I'm just gonna do some random stitches, stuff that I feel like might look really cool in these specific styles, but I will start by establishing a baseline with just our traditional cotton embroidery floss. Maybe I'll stitch something with all 6 weights. How committed am I to this right now? There is our baseline of 6-strand cotton embroidery floss in all 6 weights. Oh my god, the single strand just looks so sad over here. It's interesting though how like 6, 5, and 4, you don't really see this huge difference, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's kind of like your slope is like, I feel like I should move on to the next most commonly used stuff, which is pearl cotton. So this is size 5 pearl cotton, which is the smaller one. Let's do a little variegated. That's fun. Because the metallic stuff is technically size 5, I'm gonna do that next. It's not a pleasant texture. Instantly, all of the little threads want to separate. And one thing with metallic thread is you really have to make sure the eye of your needle is big enough for it, because it can't really squish or compress at all. So if you try to drag it through a small needle eye, that's when you'll have some problems. Even this one is barely big enough for it to go through. It's kind of getting a little stuck in places, but it's making it. Let's see if it's worth it. I mean, the noise is not pleasant either. So I can definitely see the appeal. I mean, it's very shiny, it's very textured. It almost seems to kind of stand off the fabric because it doesn't pull as tightly as regular thread that doesn't have metal in it. But you can see that past the point where the needle was sitting, it automatically has split into 2 pieces. And then at the ends, just from having to go through the fabric, it has shredded down to its 6 separate pieces. Last pearl cotton is the size 3. I mean, right off the bat, you can tell that the size 3 is significantly thicker than the size 5. Okay, so that is quite a chunk, and I'm kind of loving it. It's not any harder to stitch with. You think that if you get this thick floss, it's gonna be harder to pull it through the fabric or it's gonna shred more. No, like it doesn't really have any issues when it comes to stitching with it. You just get this amazing raised texture, and it's making the size 5 that I previously thought of as super chunky texture, it's making it look puny. I think I'm gonna have to get myself some more size 3. So if you are a fan of like the chunky designs raised off the surface, really like textured and just inviting, get yourself some pearl cotton. Go up there to the size 3, try it, it's delightful. All right, and that has been pearl cotton. I'm gonna jump over here to the variegated category because again, I feel like all of these are just regular old 6-strand cotton embroidery floss. I'm gonna stick with all 6 strands because, you know, why not? But it's the same thing. You could separate it down into 6 different strands if you wanted to. I'm gonna do a teeny tiny crow's foot. All right, well that was such a teeny tiny crow's foot that it kind of defeated the purpose. But yeah, there you go, colorous. I assume that's how you pronounce that. Fun colors, regular thread. Let's do a bigger crow's foot here. Crow's foot with variegated thread. It kind of seems like it's gonna be interesting, and then it isn't. So I think the next thing in this world would be this stuff. And you know, I gotta use the rave thread. Look at the end of it. It's already just freaking out and going everywhere. And I think this is the main problem people run into with any kind of metallic thread, is just that it doesn't want to stay together. So your best bet is kind of slowly and carefully separating it down to fewer strands. Ugh. So again, you want to make sure that the eye of your needle is definitely big enough to pull this whole thing through without it having to squish it all, because it's not going to squish, it's just going to separate. Metallic thread in general is something that you probably don't want to do an entire embroidery piece with. You're going to be pulling out your hair by the end. It's best to just use it as like small highlights here and there, so you don't go insane. I'm going to try some chain stitch with this. I think I might regret it. It's not a noise you want to hear when you're sewing. Actually, you know what I'm going to do with this? A running stitch. And then I'm going to come back and do a little bit of threading through it. Oof, see what it's already doing? We've already got one strand that's decided to be longer than the rest. It's shiny, it's pretty, it's fun to look at. That's about all I can say for it. It's not fun to sew with. Look at this. It looks like just a clump of hair. Let's try some good old étoile. No wait, étoile. Because this has some glitter in it, and maybe it'll be a lot easier to sew with than that stuff was. I would be interested to know what makes this thread look so different than your typical stuff. If you know what makes this thread look so interesting, tell me in the comments. Tell everyone in the comments. Let's do some chain stitch. So it's definitely got a very specific, shall we say, texture to it. The glitter, the twinkles are fun. I don't know if I personally would find much reason to use this though, because to me, it just kind of ends up looking like something went wrong with your normal thread. Perhaps in like a more artistic piece that explores textures and stuff like that. Yeah. Staying on the shimmery levels, let's try the diamond. Diamond. Which might actually be the answer to the metallic, shiny, lovely look without all the heartache. Like the others, it's kind of already separating. It looks like there's maybe 3 strands in there, but not nearly as much as like your metallic thread did. Of course, it's also much thinner and therefore more delicate. So this would really be best as like little accents here and there. If you tried to satin stitch something with this, you might be here all day. Let's try like a herringbone stitch. Okay, yes, 100%. If you want accents or little delicate bits of gold, silver, metallic colors, diamond is the one to go with. It does still shred and separate a little on the ends there. I mean, that's my end. It definitely did not stay together, but it pulls through the fabric much easier, much smoother, especially if you have a tighter weave fabric, and it lays quite nicely on there. We're learning things. I want to stick in the shiny world, so we are going to try this satin floss. I have high hopes and kind of low expectations. Oh my God, it feels nice. I'm going to try sewing with all 6 strands first again, but I have a feeling this is one that is also going to be better if you just separate it out. I'm going to do a little satin stitch here because it's satin floss. So with all 6 strands, it's definitely a bit of a chunk. You can hear the pop when it comes through the fabric, and it doesn't really want to lay super tight and flat against the surface here. None of that is a bad thing. It's just something to observe. All right, so you definitely get a lot of separation on the ends here. So if you're using satin floss, I wouldn't work with too long of a piece of thread at one time. Shorter is going to be better. All that being said, that is amazing. Satin stitch in satin thread. It's perfection. That's about the smoothest satin stitch you could possibly get. So, okay, let's try this floss, whatever that is. Yeah, it's very soft. Like, it's not shiny like the satin floss, but it has the same sort of texture as the satin floss. Maybe some blanket stitch. So it's very pleasing to stitch with. It's very smooth going through the fabric. It feels nice, but I just don't fully know what situation would call for it. It's kind of the thickness of like the 2 strands. It's not quite as thin as a single strand. It's a nice, delicate size. It's a nice feel, but I'm not sure like what design I would be doing that would be like, oh, I think I should use floss for this. If you find a reason to use it, do let me know, because I'm quite fascinated by this one. And I guess now we are up to this good old memory thread. I guess I'll just use more of my regular cotton floss to couch it down. Yeah, so it's definitely like a nice, clean look. In general, I'm not sure what makes it necessary. Let's move on. So I'm pretty sure this stuff is called matte cotton. You know what? I was about to say it's like right in between the size of the 3 and the 5 pearl cotton. Maybe that's because it's size 4. Wow. But unlike the pearl cotton, it has more of like just a smooth, untextured twist to it. It's not as like lumpy, bumpy, chunky. Also, I'm having significantly more trouble threading it into a needle. Oh. That is so far the hardest one to get through this fabric. It is the first one that I've said, maybe you shouldn't be doing it on this fabric. Gonna keep going anyway though, because it is surviving. That is some hardcore texture there. What I find interesting is that despite this one being a size 4, which I assume means it's a little smaller than the size 3 pearl cotton, it was significantly harder to pull it through the fabric and to sew with it. There is a bit of like a shimmery, shiny, slippery look to the pearl cotton though, which makes me think that's just a more slippery strand. So it compresses easier and it goes through that tighter weave easier. Whereas the matte cotton is kind of like, here I am not slippery, I do not like to be squished, please do not force me through too small of holes. So it's not quite as pleasant of an experience to stitch with it, at least on this tight of a woven fabric. It would probably be a lot more fun to stitch it on like a linen or something with a looser weave. And again, I am just finding myself falling in love with these chunky textures on the surface. They're so much fun to touch. Let's give this tapestry wool a go. I'm gonna do a pretty short piece here because I'm pretty sure anytime you're working with wool, you're supposed to do short pieces. And I don't think this needle is small enough for this. Big enough. It's okay, it's not super late. I'm not distracted by being hungry. Oh, okay. So yeah, no, that actually worked. Wool, it compresses. It's compressing and going back to exactly what it was. It's not destroying the weave the same way that it did on some of the other ones. Let's see how it does being drawn through fabric. We're gonna do a lazy daisy daisy. Okay, it's okay so far. Ooh, we gotta try a French knot with this. Oh, yes. So on the one hand, I absolutely love that. On the other hand, didn't love sewing it. It's difficult to pull through the fabric and you can kind of see it weakening the fibers. So it's just like a little stressful. And I don't want to be stressed when I'm sewing. But yeah, on like a looser weave, on a linen, on something like that, I could see this being a lot easier. So these 3 little babies right here, also this one, but probably for other reasons, I'm gonna have to start having some fun with those. But we are not done yet. Having gotten through all of this floss, we must now see if it's worthwhile to embroider with crochet thread. Let's start with some hot pink size 5 Petra. It looks exceptionally similar to size 5 pearl cotton. At least now I know if I ever run out of pearl cotton, I've got a few balls of crochet thread sitting around and I can just use that. Let's do some Palestrina stitch. Size 5 crochet thread, perhaps unsurprisingly, looks and feels about the same as size 5 pearl cotton. Now, I will say that when you get to the size 3 crochet thread versus the size 3 pearl cotton, it doesn't quite seem exactly the same. The crochet thread actually seems a little bit thinner or perhaps just more tightly woven. And the pearl cotton, maybe it's just this color, but it is a little bit shinier. So again, some really nice texture there, some nice chunkiness. It didn't pull through the fabric quite as smoothly as size 3 pearl cotton, but it also didn't pull through the fabric as not smoothly as the matte cotton. It was kind of halfway in between there. Last thing we gotta try is the 2 tins. Why did I get white and a crew? These won't stand out super well, but. Now this stuff pulls through the fabric very nicely. I quite enjoy it. That one really felt no different than the other one. The Baroque and the Sibelius, like, they pretty much seem the same. I think the only thing would be that the Sibelius is kind of shinier. That's about all that I see. Overall, what I would say about this whole thing over here is, like, if you're an embroidery artist, yeah, you may not go out of your way to buy and use crochet thread, but if you stumble upon a bunch of crochet thread, somebody's like, here, take all of this, and you're like, but I don't crochet. 100% you can embroider with it, and you should not waste it. And that's it. That's our 19 different kinds of thread and floss from DMC. I hope that you've had some fun with this, that you've maybe learned a few things. I've definitely learned a few things. I 100% have some new threads that I want to be trying out in future designs, and I 100% know which threads I'd like to be avoiding. It's you, metallic thread. As always, thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys next time, and oh my god, after 3 months, I have finally made this video. Huzzah!